It's been a couple of months since we made the really difficult decision to end our pregnancy, and I think we're actually really doing okay. There's been quite a few things that have helped. I think that we've become quite resilient anyway from having gone through a lot of pregnancy losses in the past. But I think what has helped is being able to talk about it has been really helpful. And I think sometimes people want to mention it, but they're not sure if they should bring it up or not, which is fine. And I think, obviously sometimes I might get upset about it, but that's not a reason not to talk about it. So I've been grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk about it openly. Other things that have really helped is having things to look forward to, which for us, we had just some little getaways planned with our family, which helped, and just doing things like going out for dinners and stuff like that. So just finding everyday things that we enjoy, and spending lots of time with our son as well has been really helpful. I think something else that's really helped is trying to just think logically about the situation. And I think we had a really good genetics counsellor who we spent a fair bit of time talking to, which was really helpful in talking through what all the different possibilities would be. And I think for me, if I just sort of tried not to think about the emotions, which I know it's impossible because we're human, but if you can step away from the situation and just say to yourself, continuing with this pregnancy could have meant very likely that it would have ended at some stage, which could then be a potentially life-threatening situation for me. And you kind of go, if that was my friend saying to me, the doctors have said to me, if I continue with this pregnancy, that my life might be in danger. What would you say to your friend? And I think that's sort of helped me on the more difficult days to come to terms with the decision. Not to say that it's not still upsetting, but it has been helpful. Anyway, the other thing that's been really helpful, in the early stages, was the prospect of doing IVF, which I'd really looked forward to because I felt like that was the answer for us, and that we just, we don't really have any problems getting pregnant, we don't have fertility issues, so we just create some lovely embryos and get them tested and that would all be fine. But it hasn't really been as straightforward as that. So what happened first of all is we were already seeing the genetics counsellor, so that was fine. We continued to see her because we wanted to understand the process that we had to go through in order to do IVF. So she explained to us that the first step was speaking to her, which was good, because you need to get approval from a reproductive council in order to do genetic testing on embryos. So we needed some support, letter of support from her in order to be able to apply for that. And we then needed to find out what the process was with IVF. So the next step was to go to an IVF clinic. And I was quite fortunate because our obstetrician, he is already an IVF specialist as well, so that's great. We didn't have to change doctors. It just took a while to get appointments, that's all, so that was quite a long process. So then we finally got the appointment, and then we had to go for a heap of tests. So it's standard part of doing IVF is that you have to go for testing. And that's where the challenges then started, because we found then that I had what's called low or diminished ovarian reserve, which basically means low numbers and low quality of eggs, possibly, which we were surprised by because, we've been pregnant many times, so that just just didn't seem to really fit with what our experience had been so far. So really at this stage we've just been told to prepare ourselves to not get any embryos, which was difficult to hear initially, but it's not impossible, so we're still going to give it a go. It does mean that we might not have as many embryos to send away for testing as we had hoped, and obviously sending away embryos for testing, you can lose some of them through that process as well, just from freezing, unfreezing, transportation, all that kind of thing. And if we're I'm expecting roughly maybe 1 in 5 might be okay. So if we don't even get 5, then that's obviously going to be challenging. But we're going to give it a go anyway. The other thing is obviously there's all kind of shutdowns and that kind of thing over the Christmas period. So it means that it's probably not going to be until next year before we can do any retrievals at all. So yeah, it just means it's going to be some time. It's going to be a long process, and probably going to have to do retrieval after retrieval after retrieval to get some eggs so that we can create some embryos and go from there. So that's where we're at for now. I sort of felt that I should do an update. I know a lot of people have been asking how we've been going, which I really appreciate. It's just been a lot of information to process over the last few months. So that's where we're at, and I know I'm not so great at giving updates all the time, but I will. I'll try and give updates along the way as we go, as I learn a little bit more about what happens with the retrievals and that kind of thing.